Hi everyone, it's Heidi here from the Nest Kids CPR and Allergy. And today we're going to speak to Jessica, who has lived with childhood allergy and has dealt with the anxieties around it and managed to find a path through. So what we're going to do is talk to Jessica today in an interview and just ask a few questions, and then we'll see what how Jessica dealt with childhood allergy. So over to you, Jessica. Hello, nice to meet you.
You too. Thanks for having me, Heidi.
No worries, no worries. It's lovely to speak to you. Like I was just saying to you before, we surveyed a lot of allergy mums, and one of the overriding things was dealing with anxiety around allergies, living with childhood allergies, because we do know that you guys live with a pretty high level of anxiety day to day. You know, the thing that's a danger out there to your child is readily available everywhere. So we understand that, but I think it's really valuable to hear from a mum who actually has lived it. Because although I'm, the nurse specialist in that area, I don't live with childhood allergy at my home. So I think it's really valuable to hear from other people. So we'd love to ask you a few questions today. Because, like I said, this is something that people struggle with themselves and their children's anxiety. So tell us about your journey and what happened with your child and kind of what food and what kicked it all off.
So my daughter Lola, she's now 7, and she's my eldest. I've got 2 little girls. So it was a bit of a rough start because when Lola was born, she had an infection in the hospital, and I'm unsure whether that caused chronic constipation, but she was constipated and we weren't able to leave the hospital for 7 days. So once I did leave, I was mixed feeding for a little while of breast milk and formula. And then I managed to just move her on straight onto breast milk. And she was breastfed for over 12 months. But during that time, we had a lot of difficulty with her skin. She had very bad eczema. She had rashes all over her body. She had red kind of these bags under her eyes. I'll send you a photo. It was just, it was quite horrific. Especially as a first-time mum, and I just wasn't understanding what was going on. I have an underactive thyroid, and when Lola was born, it was passed on to her. So she had an underactive thyroid for 3 months, and it ended up clearing up, and that is really rare for that to happen. So that all happened, and that kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety to begin with. And then, so when we were introducing food to her, she would get really red around the mouth and maybe little lumps as well. So it was from a lot of different foods, probably watermelon, tomato. There was quite a number of foods that she would get rashy from. I can't recall the exact age I gave her peanut butter, but I think it was around maybe 8 months. And there was nothing was prevalent. She didn't have any rashes. She didn't seem to have any swelling around her mouth or anything. So it started about 8 months. We would give her peanut butter a couple of times. It's not something that we actually ate a lot in our house, so it wasn't probably in her diet regularly. So then a couple of years passed. I was pregnant with my second child. Lola was 3 at the time, and one of my cravings was peanut butter. So I'd have peanut butter on toast. And one time Lola said to me, "Mummy, can I have a little bit?" So previous to that, we had takeaway a couple of times from a Thai restaurant, and we would have satay sticks. And Lola did get a little bit of a rash around her mouth. Nothing too bad, just a little bit of red dots. So I kind of didn't think too much of it because it wasn't a large reaction, and she had reactions before to different foods. So then when I was pregnant and she was 3, there was just something inside me that said, let's just try a little bit. So I just gave her a little bit on the inside of her mouth. It was probably just smaller than my little finger's nail. And she went away playing, and she came back maybe 5 to 10 minutes later and said, "Mummy, my mouth feels really spiky." And it didn't look too bad, but over the next few minutes, a rash started to form Her lips, she's got large lips anyway, so I couldn't really tell if anything was obstructed or swollen. So I called nurse on call, and they advised to give an antihistamine, which I had luckily, and to get to the doctor. So it wasn't anything urgent. They certainly were quite calm about it. So I gave her the antihistamine and she came better. I had a regular GP appointment, and he examined her and she was fine. But we obviously went to the specialist, I think, within a few weeks, as soon as we could get in. And she had the prick test, and it came back that she was allergic to peanuts, and only peanuts, no other nuts, thankfully. So he said that he didn't really want to give her an EpiPen. He thought that we could get away with just having an antihistamine. So he prescribed pretty much antihistamine and to the hospital within 30 minutes if she was to have peanuts, to obviously avoid peanuts, and she would be retested every 18 months. So we had a test, I think probably about 10 months ago. We're coming up to another one, and the allergy was still the same. Yeah, so that's where we're at the moment. So
how old is she now?
She's 7 now. So she started school last year. Kindergarten was fine because her kindergarten was very, very strict. You bring a piece of fruit for morning tea and you bring a sandwich, and they were absolutely no peanut butter, no Nutella. They were really great in communicating that. We did have a bit of trouble starting at school. The school calls themselves nut aware. They won't say that they're nut free. I completely understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, as a parent, it is really difficult. There were other kids in a school with nut allergies. I don't think there was peanuts, but there were other nut allergies. I don't think that they were overly severe. So it was really interesting having that conversation with the school's OH&S, just getting it in place, because a lot of kids in prep, or preschool, wherever you are, starting school, their parents were sending like trail mix and nuts, and I was really shocked that parents were sending those types of food. I just assumed that everyone kind of knew. So I started to get really anxious again. It was coming back because I was worried that, her friends would be touching her, and we're not quite sure now how severe her allergy is. So it was just if it was in her mouth and she consumed a little bit, but as they grow, things can change as well. So
yeah, I think that's the thing, is that the allergy does change, and we know that because we know that lots of children grow out of their allergies, but yeah, you don't know at any specific time exactly what it looks like. So how did that make you feel day to day living with it?
Yep. So once she started school, I was a little bit worried just about other people's knowledge. So other parents, other children, did they have peanut butter for breakfast and were they washing their hands? Just those types of things. I was really lucky because Lola is quite mature, and we did teach her from a very early age, because she's also on a gluten and mostly dairy-free diet, that you don't eat food taken from other children. And that even teachers aren't always aware. So sometimes when it's teachers bring in special treats like chocolates, other kids bring in cupcakes and things for their birthday. So those types of things I was getting a little bit anxious about. So I had a couple of meetings with the school. They ended up running a little bit of a campaign in the school newsletter just to increase the knowledge and the awareness around not just peanuts, but all allergies as well. So yeah, I think through teaching Lola and trying to educate the people around us, it helped ease the anxiety a little bit, but it definitely is worrying, especially when they're going to kids' houses for play dates and parties and things like that as well.
I think when people don't live with it, they just don't, it's not that they don't care as such, they just don't get it. They haven't seen it, they don't understand. And yeah, I think they just don't get the magnitude of what it could be. I was reading on a mum's group Facebook page the other day that what a school, I don't know where it is exactly, but a school, as a little treat to kind of help, say to the kids, well done for homeschool and all this kind of thing, the school got in a Mr. Whippy ice cream van. And this particular mum has a child with a dairy allergy, and it just, obviously the anxiety went through the roof, and you know, there could have been better things to do, maybe get like a magician in or
More right.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, but again, it would just be organised by the school with the best intentions, but just not thinking. Apparently this child is the only child in the school with a dairy allergy, which I struggle to believe, actually, because yeah, it depends how big the school is, I suppose. But so how did this affect Lola? Like, how aware of it was she, and did she worry at all about it?
Yeah.
Or does she?
She still worries a little bit. So if we are, reading the back of something and we say, oh, that says may contain traces of nuts, or was made on a conveyor belt, where there's nuts, she does kind of go, am I going to be okay? And we have had conversations with her that it's fine, you have your medicine and we would take you to the doctor and it would be okay. But she definitely does have anxiety around that. She will always say no to food. So whether it be at school or at birthday parties, I generally bring food because we are gluten-free as well. So I will bring her food. And yeah, it just kind of started early, the teaching of her so that she understands. But there definitely is still a little bit of anxiety around there because she knows what can happen. She knows about the swelling and the anaphylaxis. She hasn't had that reaction, but she knows that it could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So what the way that you felt, your daughter felt, like for both of you, was there anything that ever prevented you doing because of your feeling around having an allergy?
Yeah. I don't like eating Chinese when she's around, or some Asian foods, just because the cross-contamination, and it just makes me feel really uncomfortable. So we tend to stay away from, and I love Thai, but we tend to stay away from that style of food. I'm not too keen on traveling to Asian countries, just because I don't always trust the process of the food. I have been to Thailand and we loved it, and I do want to go back, but it is concerning. And it also concerns me that one day, if she still has the allergy when she's in her early 20s, if she goes traveling around the world, knowledge in other countries and in restaurants in particular, it is really worrying, and it is something that does play on my mind sometimes when I think about it.
Yeah, I think the only silver lining to all this increase, well, not just increase, but this skyrocketing number of children and childhood allergy worldwide, is that the awareness increases. So people, it's not like when our parents were, when we were very little, or when I was very little, like one child in the school maybe had a food allergy.
Yeah.
Now it's the awareness is much more, but I think we're still at the beginning of that awareness, but it can only get more,
Yeah.
So hopefully, it does make people a lot more aware, just with restaurants especially.
Yeah.
So, and how do you manage to overcome that anxiety, or keep a handle on it for you and your daughter?
So I think it come back to something that her specialist said to me. So he said that, and please don't quote me on the numbers or anything, but he did say that the number of fatalities due to consumed food allergies is very, very low in Australia. I think he named something like maybe 3 a year. I'm not sure if that's accurate. But I think I just have to really pull myself back in, look at the facts, and just understand that also we're not in that bad of a position. There are children who've got multiple allergies to all these different foods. So I think just being realistic, and finding more knowledge, understanding it more, and just kind of teaching the people around us as well. So all of our close friends and families know what you can and can't eat, and that just makes us feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And then meeting new people, just educating them as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I must add to what you said about when you first saw the specialist, the choice of giving an EpiPen or not is down to the specialist. So there isn't like a specific criteria where they say, because I know some people watching this will have questions as to why you didn't have an EpiPen. And it is down to the specialist. And this is why I say to people to see someone who's an allergy doctor or an immunologist, so that they can make that call. One specialist might say no, another might say yes, but it depends on that specific doctor. So there isn't a an absolute criteria. Sometimes people are given an EpiPen that haven't had anaphylaxis yet, and others aren't. So our immunologists, they give quite a few, but there's also a lot of people that they don't give them to as well. So it depends on the whole story, the history, and what they deem the risk that they deem. So yeah, it's very individual. And is just lastly, before we finish up, so is there anything that you didn't have at the time of diagnosis or when you were going through your allergy journey that you would have helped, make you feel better or function better as an allergy parent?
Yeah, I think, I wasn't really into Facebook groups back then. So I didn't really have anyone else around me who was experiencing the same thing, not just with peanuts, but with food in general. So I think it would have helped to have more of a support, Facebook groups, or just more knowledge so that I could get a grasp. I feel better and I feel more empowered when I understand things. And I just think that, it would have been better to just have not necessarily a doctor's opinion, but some, some detailed experience, hearing from other parents about their experience, and just putting it all into perspective, and that it's going to be okay. And I think a little bit more, maybe, what's the word? Support, a little bit more support would have been great.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I know it's really valuable because as an allergy parent, I know a lot of, although it's relatively common now, you still may be in a group of mums who their children don't have allergies, so you can still feel quite alone, although you don't realise that all the people walking around you probably are living with childhood allergy, but we just don't know. So thank you for sharing your story. I know it's going to be really valuable for a lot of people. Do you want to just tell people if they have any questions for you, because maybe they're living with the same thing or your story resonates? Do you want to tell them where they can find you?
Yep. So I have an Instagram page, Jess George Digital. So it's probably best to reach out there or on Facebook. If you have any questions about allergies or anything, if you just need to chat, feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much. Take care, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Heidi. Bye.